You're too expensive. We can get 3 junior lawyers for your salary. The crystal chandelier seemed to shake with my boss's words, echoing across the grand banquet hall where 200 of my colleagues sat frozen in their seats. The annual Sterling Industries Awards ceremony had just taken an unexpected turn. "This is neither the time nor the place, Margaret," I responded, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "My name is Elena Reyes, 52 years old, lead corporate counsel at Sterling Industries for 25 years. The Lifetime Achievement Award still gleamed in my hands, its weight suddenly feeling like a cruel joke. "Oh, it's the perfect time," Margaret sneered, her Armani suit somehow making her look smaller as she stepped onto the stage. "You're done, Elena. 25 years, and you're still costing us a fortune. We need to modernize, streamline, clear out your office tomorrow." The room fell deathly silent. I could feel the weight of 200 pairs of eyes, some shocked, others avoiding my gaze. The waitstaff froze mid-service, champagne flutes suspended in air. Even the string quartet had stopped playing. "Margaret, perhaps we should discuss this privately," I suggested, maintaining my composure as whispers began rippling through the crowd. "There's nothing to discuss. The board made their decision this morning. You're out, effective immediately." She turned to the audience. "Sometimes tough decisions are necessary for the company's future." I set the award down gently on the podium, the metallic sound echoing in the silence. With deliberate movements, I removed my company badge, the one I'd worn proudly for a quarter century, and placed it beside the trophy. "Thank you for 25 memorable years," I said, my voice carrying across the silent hall. I made eye contact with several longtime colleagues before walking out with my head held high, my heels clicking against the marble floor. If you've ever been affected by betrayal or faced tough decisions in relationships, click the subscribe button now. Only those who aren't afraid of exploring real emotional stories won't want to miss what's coming next. The parking garage's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I sat in my car, hands trembling on the steering wheel. 25 years of dedication had ended in public humiliation. My mind reeled, processing Margaret's calculated cruelty. This wasn't just about cost-cutting, her desperation had been palpable. I drove home on autopilot, muscle memory guiding me through familiar streets. The house was dark. Carlos was traveling for business. Good. I needed space to think. In my study, I poured a glass of wine and stared at the wall of framed accomplishments, bar admissions, landmark case victories, letters of appreciation. 25 years ago, I was fresh out of Columbia Law when Sterling took a chance on me. Back then, Sterling was a struggling aerospace startup with more ambition than capital. I'd built their legal department from scratch, fighting off patent trolls who smelled blood in the water. I negotiated impossible deals with suppliers who wanted to squeeze us dry. 100-hour weeks became my norm. When my daughter Sophia took her first steps, I was in a boardroom. When my son Miguel hit his first home run, I was negotiating a settlement. The memory stung. How many bedtime stories had I missed? How many parent-teacher conferences had Carlos attended alone? "The company needs me," I'd always said. But what about my family's needs? Still, I'd believed in Sterling's mission. We weren't just building aircraft components. We were advancing technology, creating jobs, contributing to national defense. That belief sustained me through divorces among colleagues, through industry downturns, through personal sacrifices. But something had shifted in recent months. Budget meetings happened without me. The CFO, Robert Chen, suddenly took interest in legal procedures he'd ignored for years. Margaret's assistant scheduled mysterious executive sessions that excluded me. I opened my laptop, grateful for my habit of backing up critical files. As lead counsel, I had access to everything, or I used to. My fingers flew across the keyboard, accessing my encrypted drive, where I'd stored copies of recent merger documents. The Titan Corp acquisition was set to close in 6 weeks. A $500 million deal that would make Sterling's executives incredibly wealthy. I'd been reviewing the merger agreements when I noticed discrepancies in the financial statements. Revenue projections seemed optimistic. Liability assessments felt light. Now, studying the documents without the pressure of office politics, patterns emerged. Third-quarter revenue figures showed a 40% increase, impossible given our production capacity. Accounts receivable had ballooned mysteriously, Inventory valuations defied market rates. My phone buzzed. A text from Maria, my paralegal. They're shredding files in the basement. All merger docs. This isn't normal. Another message. IT is wiping your email archives. What's happening? I called Maria immediately. Get out of there, I said. Don't get involved. Too late, she whispered. I copied some files before they started shredding. Elena, this is bad. Really bad. Maria, listen carefully. Delete those files. Forget you saw anything. I can't. This is fraud, isn't it? I hesitated. Meet me tomorrow, not at the office, the coffee shop on 5th. Sleep eluded me that night. I lay awake analyzing every interaction from recent months. Margaret's increasing irritability. Robert's nervous laughter during financial reviews. The board's sudden interest in streamlining operations. By dawn, I'd mapped out a timeline. The fraud began 8 months ago, coinciding with Sterling's failed satellite component project. We'd invested millions in development, promising revolutionary technology to investors. When the project collapsed, someone decided to hide the losses. The next morning, security met me at Sterling's entrance. Tom, the guard I'd known for decades, looked miserable. I'm sorry, Elena. You're on the no-access list. I understand, Tom. I squeezed his arm, remembering how I'd helped his daughter with her college applications. My office was half-packed, personal photos boxed, diplomas removed. As I collected remaining items under security's watchful eye, I studied my termination papers. The confidentiality clause was draconian, a $5 million penalty for any disclosure about company operations. More troubling were documents I'd flagged for review last week, now missing critical signatures. Pages had been swapped out, dates altered. Margaret was covering her tracks. HR handed me a severance package. Sign here, the representative said, avoiding eye contact. I read every line. The agreement included broader restrictions than standard termination papers. No contact with current employees. No discussion of company matters with anyone, including regulatory bodies. No consultation with competitors for 5 years. I'll need time to review this with my attorney, I said. It expires at 5 p.m. today, she replied. After that, you get nothing. Classic pressure tactic. I smiled politely and left. I met James from accounting at a diner across town. His hands shook as he stirred his coffee. The merger valuation is inflated by at least $50 million, he whispered. Fake subsidiaries, phantom inventory. They've been cooking books for months. He slid a USB drive across the table. Offshore accounts, shell companies. This is massive fraud. Why tell me? I asked. Because you're the only one who can stop it. They fired you because you were getting too close. James, this could destroy your career. Some things matter more than careers. At the coffee shop, Maria arrived with a stack of documents. I couldn't sleep, she said. These are from the shredder bin. I pieced them together. The papers revealed wire transfers to offshore accounts, backdated contracts, falsified safety inspections. One document showed Margaret's signature authorizing a $10 million transfer to a Cayman Islands account just last week. This goes beyond securities fraud, I said. This is money laundering. Maria nodded. There's more. Remember those government contracts we won last year? The bid documents were altered after submission. We underbid using false cost projections. My stomach churned. Government contract fraud carried severe penalties. Sterling wasn't just misleading investors, they were defrauding taxpayers. That afternoon, I sat in my home office piecing together the puzzle. Margaret's desperation made sense now. The merger was their escape route from a crumbling empire. Sterling was drowning in debt from failed projects, debt hidden through accounting tricks and shell companies. I'd stumbled onto irregularities 3 weeks ago while reviewing subsidiary reports. That's when the executive meetings I wasn't invited to began. They weren't strategizing. They were plotting my removal. If you think workplace loyalty is always rewarded, you might want to stop here. But if you're ready to see how one woman's dedication exposed corporate corruption, hit that subscribe button. The truth always surfaces. I called Jessica Chen, my law school roommate now at the SEC. I need to see you. Today. In Jessica's office, I laid out everything. My files, James's USB drive, Maria's reconstructed documents. Jessica's expression grew grimmer with each page. This is securities fraud on a massive scale, she said. Plus wire fraud, contract fraud, money laundering. You realize what you're starting? I can't let them destroy innocent lives. Pension funds are invested in sterling. Employees will lose everything when this implodes. We'll need more evidence, bank records, email trails. I have backups of email servers, automatic cloud sync I set up years ago. I handed her another drive. Margaret never knew about it. I also contacted Titan Corp's general counsel anonymously, attaching key documents. They deserved to know what they were buying. That night, Margaret called 17 times. Her voicemails evolved from threats to pleas. Think about your severance. Then, you'll never work again. Finally, please, Elena, we can fix this quietly. I didn't respond. Instead, I met with 3 former Sterling employees who'd been mysteriously terminated over the past year. Each had questioned accounting irregularities. Each had been silenced with threats. The investigation moved quickly. Jessica's team found evidence of systematic fraud dating back years. The FBI got involved when they discovered the government contract alterations. The Department of Defense launched its own probe. 2 weeks later, FBI agents raided Sterling's headquarters during an emergency board meeting. I watched from a cafe across the street as they carried out boxes of evidence. Margaret was arrested for securities fraud, wire fraud, and conspiracy. Robert tried to flee but was caught at the airport. Local news vans arrived as Margaret was led out in handcuffs. Her perfect hair was disheveled, her designer suit wrinkled. Our eyes met across the street. For a moment, I saw the mentor who'd guided me as a young attorney. Then her face hardened with hatred. The story broke nationally. Whistleblower attorney exposes $50 million corporate fraud. Sterling stock crashed 70%. The merger collapsed. The company filed for bankruptcy within a month. At Margaret's trial, I testified for 2 days. The prosecution presented email evidence showing she'd orchestrated the fraud from the beginning. She'd convinced Robert to falsify records by promising him millions from the merger. Miss Reyes, the prosecutor asked, why did you come forward? Because staying silent would have made me complicit. Thousands of people would have been hurt, employees, investors, taxpayers. I couldn't live with that. Margaret's defense attorney tried to paint me as a disgruntled employee seeking revenge. But the evidence was overwhelming. She was convicted on all counts and sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. As she was led away, Margaret turned to me one last time. I made you, she hissed. Everything you are, I created. No, I replied quietly, you only showed me who I didn't want to become. A month after the scandal broke, I opened Rise Legal Services in a modest downtown office. No marble lobby or mahogany furniture, just honest work, helping whistleblowers fight corporate corruption. Former Sterling colleagues became my first clients. Companies sought my expertise in compliance. Word spread. Elena Reyes was the attorney who stood up to corruption and won. I adopted a shelter cat named Phoenix, a daily reminder that sometimes destruction precedes rebirth. She'd been abandoned, like so many Sterling employees after the bankruptcy. Now she sat on my desk, purring as I worked. 6 months later, Maria joined my firm. You saved my career, she said. I want to help others do the same. James found work at a non-profit auditing firm. Best thing that ever happened to me, he confided. I sleep better now. Pension fund managers thanked me for protecting retirements. Shareholders expressed gratitude for exposing the fraud before more damage was done. Titan Corp's CEO called personally. You saved us from catastrophe. We'd like to retain your services for future acquisitions. The ripple effects continued. The Sterling scandal triggered investigations into similar aerospace companies. Congress held hearings on corporate accountability. New regulations were proposed to prevent similar frauds. 1 year later, my firm had grown to 12 employees, all committed to ethical practice. We'd exposed fraud in 3 more companies, protecting countless investors. My salary was a third of my Sterling pay, but I slept peacefully. Carlos and I renewed our vows on our 30th anniversary. I got my wife back, he said in his speech, the woman who values family over corner offices. My children found inspiration in my stand. Sophia applied to law school, writing her essay about moral courage. My mother taught me that integrity matters more than income, she wrote. Miguel's college application focused on ethics and business. I watched my mom lose everything to do the right thing. That's real success. Teaching legal ethics at the local university, I shared hard-won wisdom with future attorneys. My first lecture always began, character isn't revealed when things are easy, It's shown when doing right costs you everything. Students often asked if I regretted my decision. I'd smile, remembering those sleepless nights after my firing. Regret exposing fraud that would have hurt thousands? Never. My only regret is not seeing the signs sooner. The Lifetime Achievement Award sits on my bookshelf, not as a reminder of loss, but of liberation. That night at the banquet, I lost a job but found my purpose. Recently, a young attorney asked what advice I'd give my younger self. I thought of the eager Columbia graduate who joined Sterling, full of ambition and idealism. Trust your instincts, I said. When something feels wrong, it probably is. And remember, your integrity is worth more than any paycheck. Last month, I received a letter from a Sterling retiree whose pension was saved by the investigation. You gave me back my dignity, she wrote. I can look my grandchildren in the eye. That letter means more than any award or accolade. It reminds me why I acted, despite the personal cost. The corporate world hasn't changed overnight, but it's changing. Each exposed fraud, each protected whistleblower, each company held accountable moves us forward. My office receives tips weekly from employees facing ethical dilemmas. We've created a network of integrity in an industry often lacking it. Sometimes I drive past Sterling's old headquarters, now bearing another company's name. The building stands as a monument to what happens when profit trumps principle. But it also represents hope, proof that one person's courage can topple corruption. Phoenix stretches on my desk, reminding me it's time to go home. Carlos is cooking dinner tonight, something he rarely did during my Sterling years. We'll talk about our days, plan our weekend, enjoy the simple pleasure of being together. The woman who prioritized company loyalty above all else is gone. In her place stands someone who understands that true loyalty belongs to principles, not people who betray them. Someone who knows that real wealth isn't measured in stock options or corner offices, but in the lives you impact and the integrity you maintain. Looking back, I see that moment at the awards banquet not as an ending, but as a beginning. Margaret thought she was destroying me. Instead, she freed me to become who I was meant to be. The path of integrity isn't always easy, but it's always worth walking. And sometimes, losing everything is the only way to find what truly matters. If you believe loyalty should be blind, this channel isn't for you. But if you value integrity and want more stories about courage in the face of betrayal, subscribe now. Join a community that understands real strength.